And I'm Laura.
And we are Two Paper Girls.
Today we're going to do the Twas the Night Before Christmas book tag, which is an original tag by Fred Weasley Died Laughing, also known as Aoife, and she tagged us, so thank you for the tag.
There's 12 questions and they're all based around lines from the Twas the Night Before Christmas poem.
So let's just get into it. We're all festive and in the mood.
In the mood for Christmas.
First question is, Twas the night before Christmas,
And all through the house.
when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. A book that kept you up so late everyone else was asleep.
I chose I Am the Messenger by Marcus Zuzak because this book just kept me awake. I wanted to know what happened so much. It's just full of suspense right to the end, and the ending is brilliant. I nearly put this for an amazing ending because it just gave you all the feels and all the goosebumps. But this book is just so short and floppy but so fast paced. I just love this book to pieces.
I don't tend to stay up reading that late anymore because I just fall asleep. And when I first saw this question I thought of Twilight, but I thought that's an embarrassing thing that I stayed up late finishing the last Twilight, but like, oh my god, James has Bella. So instead I realised Maggot Moon by Sally Gardner. I stayed up pretty late reading because it was short and I decided I was just going to read it in one night, but that took quite a long time. But it got to like kind of 11, 12 and I should have been going to sleep, but I was like, no, I need to know what happened, so I read that all in one big go.
And the second question is, and my mama and I and me and my cat.
I think we're going to just have to read these off the laptop.
Number 2 is, and mama and her kerchief and I and my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap. A book that made you fall asleep.
For this one, I have to go with The Kill Order by James Dashner because me and Robin read this book together on the phone. He read it to me every night. And it made me fall asleep every night because it was so bad. We're going to have a review. Me and Robin are going to review this book together in a video because we have a lot to say about why we didn't enjoy it. But this book literally made me fall asleep. It's not even that it was metaphorically boring and tiring. Like, I literally fell asleep after like 5 pages of him reading this to me because it was so repetitive and samey and just nothing was happening. Like, there was a plot but there was just no point. And yeah, didn't enjoy this book.
A book that made me fall asleep was The First Phone Call from Heaven by Mitch Albom, which really disappointed me because I loved The Five People You Meet in Heaven. I keep getting the titles mixed up. And I was just really disappointed. I just didn't like it. I mean, I like books with religion in because Life of Pi is one of my favourite books. And this just seemed so tacky and boring. I didn't like any of the characters. It was trying to do a Love Actually thing if we're talking about Christmas. There was just too many plot lines, too many characters I just didn't care about. And it was just boring as hell. It took me ages.
Question 3 is, when out on the roof there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. A book or a book scene that made your heart race.
I chose the Unwind series, or the first book in particular. I've only got the third one unsold. But yeah, Unwind by Neil Shusterman is a really, really good dystopia that just doesn't get enough attention on BookTube, just in the YA publishing industry in general. It's really good. I mean, I haven't finished the series because I left too long between all of the books. I read the first 2. And I just don't know if I've read this one or not. That's how like behind I am on reading it. But that book was so good. It was so fast paced. It's just goes beyond dystopia and so disturbing. It's really, really good. If you want like a scary, gory dystopia, Unwind is definitely the one.
I've got a specific scene from a specific book that made my heart race, and that is in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, a chapter called The Forest Again, which has always been like my favourite chapter because it's when Harry, spoilers maybe, kind of, it's when Harry accepts that he's got to die and he's walking from Hogwarts to the Forbidden Forest and he's like counting his heartbeats and walking past everyone because he's in his invisibility cloak, and it just really like made my heart race in that I was like so sad, and it was just heart-wrenching but also kind of scary because you didn't know what was going to happen when I first read it, and that scene is just written so beautifully and it's just so emotional.
Question 4 is, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, an object in a book that was utterly magical or a magical book.
For this one, I'm going with Peter Pan because it's just one of my favourite magical books that isn't Harry Potter. I love fantasy, but I realised I haven't actually read that much fantasy to pick from with like magic and stuff in it. So I didn't want to say like a magical object from Harry Potter. So Peter Pan is definitely very magical. You've got flying and a whole new world and just crazy madness. And it's very magical to read it.
I actually chose a person for this one. I chose Sunny from the series of Unfortunate Events series because she is just a darling, isn't she? She's so sweet. She's a little baby in the first one, then she grows up and then she gets her teeth and she can do things with them. And then she decides to read and she's a better reader. In like the snowy one, in the slippery slope, when she like saves them all and reads the play. Oh, I just love her so much. She is like a magical character. And I just love Sunny.
Question 5 is, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. Twinkle-eyed book character that made you happy.
Me and Laura both have answers from John Green for this question, so that says something about his twinkle-eyed book characters. But I chose Ben from Paper Towns. He's just so sweet. He just thinks everyone is lovely. I mean, everyone bullies him quite a lot, but he still loves them, and he loves his honey bunnies, and he plays the clarinet, and I just love Ben. He's just so happy and just like untouchable. He's just so lovely.
I nearly went with Ben actually, but instead I decided on Augustus Waters because he's so twinkle-eyed in that he's like, he wants to be remembered and he's all wondering about infinity, and he's tortured, but he's always just so cheeky and smiley until like the very end. He's just always so charming and it just makes me smile because he's proper like twinkle-eyed and sweet.
The next question is, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh rode full of toys and St. Nicholas too, a book that made you fly to another land.
For this one I'm going to go with Rat Queens because even though it's not set in a specific land that's really named, or at least I can't remember, you are completely like transported into this world with all these crazy creatures and crazy people, and I just am so engrossed by this graphic novel series, and all the pictures as well really help you kind of build up an image of the sort of world it is. And yeah, this is just great, and it completely, I'm just there. I'm the 5th Rat Queen when I read these books. They're great.
I chose More Than Is by Patrick Ness because even though I have a love-hate relationship with Patrick Ness, I really enjoyed this book. I forgot how big it was, but I just remember feeling like I was proper there in this book. And even though it's not like a contemporary, but it's not a dystopia, it's a really weird kind of alternate reality book, and I still like could imagine it really perfectly because of how it's described and everything. And I just really enjoyed how I just felt like I was there, even though you know that you don't have a clue what's going on for most of this book.
The next question is, and then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. A book creature that you love.
This may not come as a surprise, but I chose Richard Parker from The Life of Pi because he's a tiger and I love him and I want him pet and I'll have him around for tea. And he is just the perfect tiger, best creature. He doesn't talk, but he has the most personality out of any creature ever.
My favourite book creature, definitely, well, I don't know, there's lots from Harry Potter to pick from. I love Buckbeak and Fang. I was going to say Scabbers. I don't like Scabbers or Crookshanks, but I do love Dobby. He's adorable. He's kind of annoying though to begin with. I never used to like him, but he completely redeems himself by like the 6th, 7th book when he's all like, Harry Potter is my master, and he just like saves the day and you don't expect him to. It's just so sweet. And when he's looking after like, what is it, the Winky, the really drunk elf in the 5th one, that one really makes me laugh, and he's just really sweet.
The next question is, he was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot, a character that proves to be more than his or her first impression.
I couldn't think of an answer for this for quite a while at first, and then it hit me that there's a very obvious answer, for me anyway. That is Warner from the Shatter Me series, specifically in Unravel Me and then followed by Ignite Me. He goes through a lot of character development. I hated him so much when I read Shatter Me, and I was like, how on earth can people fancy this guy? He's the creepiest person. But I changed my mind because there was a lot of character development and he just turned out to be a lot more than he first seemed, which perfectly fits this question. Really like Warner now. Really like Warner quite a lot.
The character that I think goes through a lot of character development is not from this series, it's actually from the Mortal Instruments, but I don't have the book right now. Saves Laura doing all the overlays on her fancy Mac. But I chose Simon from the Mortal Instruments series because I didn't like him. I thought he was an idiot when he gets turned into a rat by the vampires in City of Bones. I'm just like, you're just a hopeless case. I wanted him to die or just go home. And then by City of Heavenly Fire, by the end of the book, I was in floods of tears because of this man. I can't believe how much he changes. He just goes from being an idiot to being the boy that I just love entirely. And you still need to get around to reading it because if you know Simon from the start, it will tear your heart to pieces. It's so good and I love him.
The next question is, he had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed with like a bowl full of jelly. A book or book character that made you laugh.
I don't have this one on me, but I chose Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. It's a story about a bunch of beauty queens who are going to this pageant but get plane wrecked on an island, and then they just go around trying to survive, and one of them has a bit stuck in her head, and one of them's just insane and tries to make them do pageant things when they're starving to death. And it's just really funny in a really macabre way. And then there's men, there's like the beauty men from like this really popular television show who also get shipwrecked on their island, and they're meant to be English because it's an American book. And the way that they talk is just so not English. It's just so funny to think that's how the Americans think we talk. It was just really funny. I'd recommend this book.
I don't actually laugh out loud at books that often. I don't know why. Like, I can go like, but I never like proper belly laugh, which I know a lot of people do. But a book that nearly had me laughing was Me, Earl and the Dying Girl, and specifically the character of Earl, just because he's so like cool and laid back, but then just does like surprising things. He'll just like have a massive go at Greg because he's like, you should buy Rachel ice cream, and it's just like it's just really weird. And since seeing the film as well, that was really funny, and it's kind of like solidified it in my mind as being like a really funny character, a really funny book. So I'd recommend that if you don't mind lots of swearing and a bit of sadness, but it's a very good book.
The next question is A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. A book that makes you feel safe.
My answer for this is Paper Towns by John Green, because I wanted to go Harry Potter, but I've already had 2 Harry Potter answers and I need to stop. So, but this one equally gives me the same amount of feels. Like when I just read that first page, I pretty much have it memorised, like word for word. Like all about the miracle and Dr. Jefferson. It just makes me so happy, and if I just read this book, it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. I'm just so happy. I love this book so much.
I chose All My Friends Are Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman because obviously one of my favourites. Whenever I'm sad or down or just generally in need of a pick-me-up, or I'm just really, really happy, it's one or the other. I just sit and read this book and I just feel fine again. I just feel fabulous. It's so good. So good.
The penultimate question is, he spoke not a word but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings and turned with a jerk. A book that put you to work, brackets, a book that you felt you really needed to concentrate on.
I was going to choose Lord of the Rings for this because it was really easy to get lost in all the names and all the places and where they are. And who's even talking sometimes, but I've already picked that one. So the other book that I'm going to choose is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, because he is, again, all over the place. It's so hard to follow because of like the embedded narratives and whatnot. It's just really intense. Descriptive read. If you just skip a few pages, it's hard to understand what's going on, but yeah. I think it's worth it. I mean, it's not a very fast-paced read at all. It's quite boring, but when you've studied it and you know how good it is, it's kind of good to read, but I probably wouldn't recommend it for a fun Christmas read.
My answer for this is Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett, which I actually read last month. It was a book play for university. It's an absurdist drama, so it's meant to be all over the place, but when you first read it, you kind of don't know if you should be constantly searching for this extra layer of meaning, or if you just take it for what it is, of like all of its craziness, because it's just these 2 characters who just have the same conversations over and over again. Nothing really happens. There's a weird man and his donkey servant human who he's got tied up, who is carrying. It's just really weird, and it is quite hard to follow. It's not like the actual wording is difficult, but if you want to understand what it means, you really do have to think quite hard about it. Once you do start thinking and discussing it, it's really, really good.
And the last question is Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night. A book with a magnificent ending.
My answer for this is specifically Catching Fire, but after seeing the Mockingjay film, just kind of every book in this series and the series as a whole, they all have amazing endings, but my favourite one is Catching Fire because it's so fast paced, like how they escape the games and suddenly people you thought were evil were on their side, but especially the big twist of like Gale going, District 12 is gone, and you don't know if that's serious or if, well, it turns out it is, but when you first read it, it's just so confusing, but it's a really like powerful ending and really makes you want to pick up the next book. Hunger Games, the first book, did have a similar thing though, with the whole like revolution, stuff is going to go down after the first book. So every book in the Hunger Games, but specifically Catching Fire is my favourite.
I chose All the Bright Places by Jennifer Neven because this book was a weird one because I really enjoyed the start, and then because it was quite a big book, the middle dipped a bit for me because there's not many other characters apart from the main 2 people, and it just dipped a bit and I didn't really enjoy it. But then the last 100 pages just got to me so much. I couldn't put it down. I read it non-stop when I reached that point, and it just got to me. I didn't realise how emotionally invested in this book that I was until I reached the end, and that was just when I thought of good endings. I couldn't think of many at all because I was like, oh, there's just so many, but then none really stand out. But then I was reading through my good ones, I was like, oh, that one really got to me because it is contrasted with the start of the book. That wasn't that good for me. So yeah, all the bright places.
So that's it for the Twas the Night Before Christmas book tag. This was really sweet. Thank you for tagging us again, Aoife, because we wanted to do something Christmassy and we got all dressed up and now we're feeling super festive and we have to go back to coursework. But this has been nice anyway.
We hope you have a really good Christmas.
We're going to tag Victoria from A Hermit's Progress. We hope you enjoy this video and have time to do it before Christmas.
And we'll see you in the next video. Bye!